Hello there, and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. I believe that the $1.9 trillion stimulus bill is expected to pass the House, the Senate, and will be signed into law by the president. But there's going to be a caveat. And this caveat does have implications financially to our fellow Americans. And believe it or not, this caveat has political implications for those in DC, the Democrats as well as the Republicans. Now, as you probably know, Bernie Sanders has been pushing for the minimum wage. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has been pushing for the minimum wage. President Biden has been pushing for the minimum wage. So there's been a significant amount of push from different members of the administration for the $15 an hour minimum wage. But the problem is the Senate parliamentarian did rule yesterday that the $15 an hour federal minimum wage could not be included as part of the stimulus plan. In fact, a lot of Republicans have come out openly criticizing the minimum wage component. I also reported earlier on our channel today that Senator Ron Wyden did want an alternative, a plan B for the minimum wage, where Senator Ron Wyden wanted a penalty on companies that did not pay their employees a certain wage. And he wanted a tax incentive for small businesses that made sure to pay their employees a certain amount of money by way of a tax credit so that they would pay less federal income tax as well. The situation is that as things evolve, I expect that the federal minimum wage will end up on the chopping block. Now, here's the thing. There is a possibility that we could see $11 an hour minimum wage because it has been proposed by Senator Mitt Romney. He has proposed a minimum wage right around $10 or $11 an hour. So we could see that potentially being proposed, which is kind of ironic because the minimum wage has not gone up since 2009. I mean, it's been many years, since it's over a decade since the minimum wage has gone up. And here we are discussing $11 an hour, $15 an hour, when billionaires have gotten richer, when people with money have already gotten richer because the value of their assets has gone up. It's really an ironic situation. So what's interesting here is that Chris Wallace from Fox News chimed in on this, and he said something that I thought was very interesting. He said the $15 an hour minimum wage is going to end up on the chopping block, and he said that House Speaker Pelosi is basically going to say, hey, I fought the good fight. We tried to do this, but we couldn't get it done. I believe that this has significant implications for those in the travel, leisure, entertainment, and hospitality industry who essentially aren't even provided a minimum wage because you're reliant on tips and you're reliant on other streams of income. So I do believe that the minimum wage should have gone up, and I do believe at some point it will go up, but not without a fight. Because now that the Senate parliamentarian has said that it cannot go through with budget reconciliation, it is going to require bipartisan support. It's going to require 67 or more senators in the United States Senate. Remember, there are 100 senators, and a clear majority requires a 2/3 majority or higher, which in this case would be 67 or more. Now, considering that there are 50 Democrats in the United States Senate and 50 Republicans, we are looking at a situation where it is impossible for a minimum wage hike to happen without the support of several Republicans. The problem is the Democrats cannot afford to lose a single vote in the United States Senate for the $15 now. And they've already been told by Joe Manchin, the Democrat from West Virginia, and Kristen Sinema, the Democrat from Arizona, that minimum wage is not going to happen. We now find ourselves in a situation where the $15 an hour minimum wage is all but dead. And unfortunately, the $10 or $11 an hour minimum wage may live to fight another day because the rest of the provisions of the bill are simply not going to be supported by Republicans. And so it's impossible that we'll get to a 67 vote threshold. So what we are looking at is essentially the budget reconciliation package minus the minimum wage making its way through the House, through the Senate. We'll see a lot of arguments and drama in the Senate. The Senate passes it, and then the Democrats and the Republicans come together to do minimum wage at another time. So this is the big caveat with the $1.9 trillion stimulus plan. The big caveat with this plan is that it is going to happen, but without minimum wage. And unfortunately, this is the reality of the situation. Let's take a quick look at Fox News, where Chris Wallace chimed in and said Speaker Pelosi will essentially concede that we fought the big fight. And since this is going to be a big caveat, it's going to be the reason the $1.9 trillion package passes, with the caveat, which is that the $15 federal minimum wage, which was something that was deeply desired, that was essentially an important project for Bernie Sanders, for Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and many, many, many other Democrats, including Chuck Schumer. Unfortunately, is not going to happen. Let's analyze what Chris Wallace said. It's a short clip, but it's super important to analyze what he said. Let's roll the tape and hear from Chris Wallace.
So this movement is happening. Joe Biden, the president, wants to get this bill done by March 14th, when unemployment benefits would run out. They have slim margins in the House. They got this new ruling about minimum wage hike not being allowed in the Senate version. How do you think this turns out over the weekend?
Well, my guess is, and you know, I say this with a certain caveat, because the Democratic majority is so small. I mean, they could only afford to lose 2 or 3 votes and pass this bill. But I think the likelihood is it will pass the House. Now you say, well, why are they going to pass it with the minimum wage when they can't pass it with the minimum wage in the Senate? Because Nancy Pelosi, first of all, she needs the votes of those Democrats on the left wing who very much want it. And so she's going to say, I'm with you. Let's pass it with what we want. Then we'll send it to the Senate. Then the expectation is they will strip it out because of the parliamentarians' rule that it doesn't fit in a budget bill. And then when it goes back to the House, Nancy Pelosi will say, you know what? I fought the good fight. This is it. This is what we got. It's the first big agenda item of President Biden. We got to pass it.
So that's it, everyone. Let me know what you think of this major caveat. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to happen, but I do want our viewers and subscribers to know that as the economy is gradually improving, hopefully you can work with a company that is providing a livable wage. I did report that Amazon has been doing a nationwide campaign pushing for a higher minimum wage, $15 an hour, and Amazon has said they would do that. And Costco has announced that effective next week, they'll raise their minimum wage across all their stores nationwide to $16 an hour. Now, keep in mind, the $15 an hour proposal from the Democrats was not as aggressive as that. The minimum wage would have phased in over 5 years. So I think the best bet for our viewers and subscribers is to honestly understand that Congress is not going to come to your rescue. The Republicans and the Democrats are simply not going to be able to get a 2/3 majority to pass minimum wage. That is a big caveat of the stimulus plan, and therefore, you need to find a job. You need to work with an employer who's paying you a livable wage, which is higher than a federal minimum wage. So hopefully you can do that. There are employers starting to hire. I know that many of you have lost your jobs permanently. I feel for you. Individuals in travel, leisure, entertainment, and hospitality have been impacted. And at this point, it's hard for some of us to put food on the table. I get it. I empathize. And my body of work on this channel shows you that I've been keeping track of the news and relaying it to you without any of the fluff. I hope you learned something new. I hope you can find a job that pays you a livable wage, or if you have a job that pays you a livable wage, good on you. Hopefully you can help someone else who's struggling. Thank you so much for watching. Please click the like button. Please subscribe. Please enable notifications. I would really appreciate that. That would mean a lot to me. That helps out the YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.